Will you follow me when the sky starts to change? Yeah, we won't be afraid. We'll never be the same again.
With anime in our souls and thoughts of wrestling out of control, we are a group of weebs who love the entertainment of professional wrestling. So, allow us to be the voices inside of your head as we go through the wrestling events of the evening, give our thoughts and predictions on what's to come, and provide an experience inclusive to all you nerds out there. So, grab your steel chair, yell for the table, get put through an experience unlike any other. We are brought to you by Animal Weed Studio, and this is the Weebs of the Ring podcast. Greetings, salutations, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whenever you're watching or listening to us. Welcome to the Weebs of the Ring podcast. I, of course, am one of your co-hosts, the world champion himself, Watkins, here to kind of have some Netflix and chill vibes with you tonight as we talk about a better Monday Night Raw than last week, but not really by much, if I'm going to be honest. But of course, as always, I am joined by some lovely co-hosts of mine. Of course, Vash is not here tonight. He had to go ahead and take care of a Snorlax that was sleeping in the path of his workflow. But as always, to help us process all these stories going on as we not only head toward Toronto for the Elimination Chamber, but we are 61 days away from WrestleMania. That's right, the genius of the man himself is here. Drop this box. Drop, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good, a little under the weather, as you guys can probably tell
Ooh.
throughout my videos. I even brought it up on Monday with the latest video on there. But I'm still pushing through, still putting out content as much as I can. And yeah, like you said, it was a decent Raw. That's what I told you before I hopped on tonight. It was a decent Raw. Did a couple
Yeah.
things I liked. It did some good progression when it came to certain stories I wanted more layers to. And we're going to dive into that stuff shortly.
Oh, yeah. So be sure to join in on the discussion as always. If you're here live with us, of course, send us some chat, send us some feedback. Let us know how you guys are enjoying the show and how you enjoyed Raw. If you're watching the VOD, of course, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff so you don't miss our next episode, as well as, our new show known as Grappling with the Week. We'll have another episode this coming Thursday to kind of talk about all the fun things going on in the wrestling world, including things like NXT, Dynamite, and whatever big news stories might come out of there. But that's neither here nor there. We have Monday Night Raw to talk about. Again, decent show. Had some things progress forward, thankfully, but not as fast as I think we would hope at this point towards our build for WrestleMania. Like, I know we're trying to build to Elimination Chamber, which is next Saturday, but when you kind of look at it, it's like, okay, we have 61 days till Mania. Some of these matches kind of need a little bit more, and I'm hoping that they give us a little bit more on that road. But let's kind of dive right in right now. We had two Elimination Chamber qualifying matches. We had the final two to kind of set the stage for the Elimination Chamber, and two kind of big matches on paper when you look at it. And there's a reason I say on paper, but we'll get into that here soon. First of all, let's talk about Seth Rollins versus Finn Bálor to finish off the men's Elimination Chamber match. Now, if you guys know anything about Seth and Finn, they have really great chemistry in the ring, and I like how commentary always, and even Seth and Finn as well, kind of play upon their history and just how much they kind of don't like each other, at least in kayfabe and all that. But yeah, this was a really good match. I thought a really good main event to kind of end the night on, and to kind of make it so that way this Raw wasn't completely boring, if I'm being honest, because there were some times where I just was starting to tune out a little bit. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, it was a really great match. There was one little hiccup with like the referee, where Seth hit a pedigree, and I think Finn may have kicked out just a little too late, and the ref didn't catch it or something. But the Charlotte fans in North Carolina were not having any of it. But talk to me a little bit, Drop. What do you think about this match?
I thought it was a really good match. I expected this to be a good one, heading into this because, like you said, Seth Rollins and Finn Bálor, and keep in mind, I'm trying to break things down as much as I can so I don't cough throughout the video. But I already expected this to be a good match between the both of them because, like you said, they have a lot of history. They're playing off a lot of things. I mean, the buckle bomb is a good example of that because Seth doesn't normally pull that out all the time, and obviously there's a lot of history with that between him and Finn Bálor because obviously that's the whole reason why Finn Bálor originally got that injury all those years ago when he won the Universal Championship off of Seth Rollins, and then he had to vacate the championship the following night. So there's a lot of Easter eggs in there. This was a great main event. Definitely a great way to wrap up Monday Night Raw. There was a part of me, and I kid you not, that I thought Finn was going to go over just because of how they were just building up the match. Like, it almost made me feel like Seth Rollins was going to get so close, but then, I'm not saying shenanigans would happen, but then he would fall short in some way, and then that would end up, pushing things even more for him when it comes to, like, this new character arc that Seth Rollins is going on right now. And it made sense with Seth being in here. I definitely feel like this is going to play into what happens in the chamber. I'm just going to come out and say he's not winning. I'll say that next week too. When we give our predictions during grappling with the week. He's not winning, but I definitely feel like this is going to play into the storyline between him and Roman Reigns, because I don't think that triple threat between him, Punk, and Reigns is happening anymore, because they made it pretty apparent on Friday that video package centered around them. It didn't show the brawl between him and Punk at all. And I don't want people saying, "Oh, well, they were chanting CM Punk to Seth Rollins." They do that all the time. That doesn't mean shit now. So it's like, I definitely feel like this is going to play into it. I know there's a popular theory going around where maybe we see Roman Reigns show up and cost him that opportunity, and then that's when we really start kicking things into gear, because you would feel like, in a way, that he would want to do something to get back at Seth Rollins. And obviously he almost got a shot. Obviously CM Punk was the reason behind it, but you also have to keep in mind the last image that Roman has is Seth Rollins because of all that shit he was doing to him. You could only imagine that, hey, maybe I should cost him a shot at Cody's title too, because of what he did to me and all that shit that played out. And I also feel like this is probably the early stages of that rumored Finn Bálor push that was talked about last year. I can definitely see that in motion here. They didn't make Finn look like a chump at all. This actually felt like the Finn that we should be seeing on television, and it seems like that's being stepping stone. I know my boys at PWN, shout out to them. I know they even shouted that out to that report saying, things are kicking into gear now. And I trust me, those are great people over there. Trust what they say. So I am super excited for that, because he definitely needs to be put in like main title picture.
Oh, I agree full-heartedly. Like, because I do love Finn, and I feel like he, ever since that injury, I mean, that we always bring up that injury, and it's hard to believe that was about that was about 9 years ago when you kind of stop and think about it. and he never really picked back that momentum that they basically gave him. Like, they strapped a freaking rocket to him during that first month of him being on the main roster. I mean, you
Even beat
don't just
Roman to
go
get
over
in.
Roman Reigns that
Yeah.
early on your
No.
main roster career,
And
especially during the Vince McMahon era.
yeah.
Like, they had some things planned for Finn, and again, unfortunately, things happen and all that. But yeah, there was a part of me too that thought that Finn might have gone over tonight, and I would have been fine with that. That would have been cool. But yeah, I agree too. I think this was a good way to kind of showcase Finn again, show that he is main event caliber as he is, as he always has been. And I mean, the whole Judgment Day breaking up angle cannot come sooner. It
Yeah.
it can come. It needs
Yeah.
to start happening very much sooner. And we saw a little bit more cracks tonight too, with Finn kind of telling Dom he needs to do his job. Congratulating Liv, but more of like in a condescending way, and telling Raquel that she needs to take care of her business. Which, I mean, if we transition to that match, she kind of didn't take care of that business.
No,
Um,
she
but
didn't
yeah, I
at
mean,
all.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
not at
because
all.
it
Because, yeah, go ahead.
that was pretty much like getting into that match. That was pretty much
Yeah.
like a David versus Goliath matches, like what's said in the notes, and
Hmm.
obviously just watching on television, you would look at it, from a certain point of view and be like, oh, Roxanne does the stage a chance. She's small, she can't do this. Roxanne's a powerhouse, etc. So on. There is some people that unfortunately think like that, but Roxanne, did what she needed to do throughout this match. I didn't really expect Raquel to go in here because they wouldn't have gave Roxanne that big accolade at the Royal Rumble of her being in the Royal Rumble for as long as she was if they
Yeah.
weren't going to use that as like this big push for her moving forward. And I even saw reports saying that she's going to be getting a big push on the main roster, which you should, because this is one of the girls that's going to be a heavy focus in your division when a Charlotte, when a Becky, when a Bianca, etc., so
Hmm.
on, are no longer in the company anymore. And that's why I've been very vocal about the Charlotte and Tiffany thing, about how Tiffany should go over. And trust me, that's going to be quite the arc that will go on leading up until
Hmm.
WrestleMania. I'm gonna stick by that all the way through. Little PSA right there, by the way. But this was a good way to just showcase, hey, this is Roxanne. This is what she's capable of. This is what she could do, because I followed her. It's kind of weird because it's like before I didn't really watch NXT as much as I do now, but I watched her ever since she
Hmm.
became like the breakout, when she won the breakout tournament, and she did her thing over there. She was like the Iron Survivor, all of that. So it's like
Hmm.
just looking at where she was then and looking at where she is now, where she's just evolved so much. A lot of people at first think she wasn't gonna really kill it as a heel, but she's actually done a very great job. And it's honestly convinced me it's kind of really hard to see her as a babyface anymore, just because of how much
Hmm.
she plays this heel run. But obviously, like we spoke about, just like you were talking about cracks with the Judgment Day, obviously we have something that was leading from Friday to Monday Night Raw when it came to the whole who attacked Jade Cargill. And I'm going to
Yeah.
tell you guys who the answer is. It's Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, obviously. But
Ooh.
obviously that was played into this because you would think realistically, why would Bianca and Naomi, why would they
Hmm.
want, I mean, I guess in a way you would think if she did win, they're just locked in a cage, they could beat the shit out of them. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
they obviously are going to take part in that match, cost Raquel so they don't advance further into it. And obviously now Liv's caught in the middle of it, so that's going to be pretty interesting. Liv's also has some little beef with Alexa Bliss in there, so she's going to have like 3 people after her next, so that should be pretty interesting. But it's
Hmm.
like,
Yeah, at least half the field.
yeah, but it's like I really like no, I'll just say this. This was a match really just to put Roxanne in the Elimination Chamber, just to capitalize on Royal
Hmm.
Rumble. And just to honestly, now I think about it, it's almost like a Tiffany Stratton situation with her in the Elimination Chamber last year, but instead of Tiffany, obviously, since she's champion, because if she wasn't champion, I would assume she would be in this.
Yeah.
You have Roxanne in there. She's probably going to showcase what she can do, and then it's going to go off from there. Bailey's in there, probably going to tie into their feud. And it should be interesting to see what happens with this whole entire Naomi and Bianca thing, because obviously we know it's obviously not Liv and Raquel, but what are your thoughts on this? Just want to let all that stuff out.
So
have some time.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think especially if they're doing a heel versus heel match, because that can kind of get very tricky, a lot trickier than doing a face versus face match.
Yeah.
I think putting her against Raquel benefited Roxanne, because like, okay, we can kind of put some sort of sympathy towards her, but she's still going to be a heel regardless. And yeah, it kind of shows too. I mean, it kind of just builds upon that whole prodigy thing that she is. It's like, okay, she's able to get around Raquel enough to get some good offense in. I mean, you see that throughout the match with like her, going outside the ring and trying to do like, I wanted to say a snapmare, but whatever. It's basically grabbing Raquel by the head, doing that and all that, like getting around her. Like there was even the part too where Roxanne was in the corner just like laying down. Raquel ran to her, and Roxanne, I keep getting their names mixed up too, so please don't put them in a match again with each other so I can like switch my brain a little bit easier saying their names back and forth. But Raquel runs towards Roxanne while she's laying down in the corner, and Roxanne just kind of rolls out of the way, and Raquel just like propels herself into the bottom rope and all that. Like that was a cool spot. But again, it's showcasing that whole prodigy mindset that Roxanne has. And even when she was able to hit the pop rocks, it wasn't like, at least from what I can recall, I haven't seen Roxanne pull it off like that, where she did like a springboard from the ropes onto Raquel to pull it off. So that was kind of cool just to see, just her innovation in the ring with all that. And I mean, yeah, once we kind of got the that footage on Friday about, Liv and Raquel were there for Jade's beatdown and all that when she got thrown into the car and all that. Yeah, you kind of knew how this match was going to end and how it was going to play out with Bianca and Naomi coming out, running distraction and all that. And I mean, we got a women's tag team title match scheduled for next week, so maybe they drop it there. I mean, that would be something going into the chamber.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm curious about. Are they going to lose it there, and then you get a revelation, or do you want them to look strong heading into the chamber? That's the big question there.
I could see them dropping it because of this whole idea that they tried to put in tonight, where it's like, oh, well, you guys are tag team, you guys are tag team champions, you guys are a team, you guys are friends, so what's going to happen when it comes down to you two in the chamber? And so if they're not champions going into the chamber, well, it kind of puts a little bit of doubt of their own teamwork in there. And I mean, yeah, they could still team up, because we do see team ups in matches like this and all that. But it just adds a little wrinkle to that, because it's like, okay, maybe Naomi and Bianca could betray the other one in there, or like, try to get a cheeky roll up on the one. I mean, it just adds a little wrinkle, which, not gonna lie, this build right now for Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania kind of needs a few more wrinkles to go in. I don't know if that's just me, or it seems to kind of be the sentiment from a lot of people online. Which, I mean, again, take that with a grain of salt too, because I mean, you could hear fan reactions in the stadiums and all that. But I mean, when you're watching it at home and you kind of sit there able to think things through, you're like, okay, wait, hold on. This isn't matching up, that's not matching up, like that's the whole thing with all that. It's like, when you're in the arena, you're filled with all this energy of like being at the live show and like feeding off of the energy, not from the people around you, but from the people in the ring. But when you're home, you're able to just kind of sit there and contemplate and really kind of start processing what you're watching on TV and all that.
Yeah.
But I am glad that Roxanne went through. Again, there's a lot of story going into the Elimination Chamber from like different people, from different angles. I mean, Bailey and Roxanne, they're kind of in their own little corner from everybody, which part of me kind of likes, because it's like, okay, they have their own thing. Alexa's kind of the odd one out as well, because there's some stuff there with Liv, but like she's kind of the wild card in all this, where like she could do something kind of crazy. And I mean, we know that before she was leaving the company, to have her kid and all that, she was in a program with Bianca at that time, so they could always play upon that too. And maybe that's how we get the truth about Jade, is through Alexa doing some sort of spooky shenanigans.
Yeah, that's definitely very possible. I mean, like, definitely, like, what if they potentially, because I'm not going to say they could, because a lot of people thought it was a good chance they could have dropped it to last Intracar on an NXT episode a couple weeks ago to really, like, dive into everything that's going on now, so then things would be, like, a little, like, more unpredictable. But, like, there is a chance that they could lose the titles next week, but if they don't, that's also going to be very interesting as well, because there's also a part of me thinking, like, either way it's kind of interesting. It's like they head in there as tag team champions, but what if shenanigans play out there? What if one person hypothetically does a surprise roll up on the other, or let's say one of them hits each other, or whatever the case may be, some shit ends up happening in there, which ends up bleeding into that whole thing. But I don't know, like that's like the main thing really that I'm very curious about, is like, I don't know, there's also kind of a part of me we're thinking maybe the whole revelation happens in the chamber. Maybe something along the lines of that, because we've had outside interference, not necessarily, well, I guess, there was times when people were in the ring, because Shawn Michaels, I remember, was in the ring, cost Taker his belt because he really wanted a match with him at WrestleMania that year. And then Logan Paul for the past couple years, when it came to Seth, when it came to there's another one recently. It was Seth.
Last year was Randy Orton.
Yeah, Randy Orton. So like those past 2 years, he's been costing people. A lot of people are saying, oh, he could potentially do it again, which I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he pulls some sort of shit like that. So you got to get him doing something. A lot of people thought it was him, and we'll talk about AJ later, but I don't really think that's the case anymore. So definitely going to be very interesting to see how things transpire next week. Like, definitely that match itself is going to be very telling once we head into the Elimination Chamber.
Yep. And, again, our stages are set. We're going to find out next Saturday who's going to face Cody at WrestleMania, and who's going to end up facing either Rhea or Io at WrestleMania, because we also got that match coming out the Monday after Elimination Chamber, which, interesting enough that we didn't get Rhea this week, like not even a video package. Like I know her and Buddy went down to Australia to kind of take some time off, but I'm surprised they didn't like film some sort of vignette for Rhea to come out today. But I mean, maybe she'll just be at the show next week and make up for it. Who knows? But from one world title picture to another that we know is definitely happening, Gunther and Jay are starting their 2-month build for WrestleMania. And this week on our little saga that we're on, Gunther tries to feel the yeet, much like the glow with Naomi. See how everything just kind of blends in together and all that. But yeah, so Gunther's trying to feel the yeet. He's basically in the J position, like outside with the crowd and all that. He tries to walk down in the arena, and he's just running down everybody, saying like, oh, you guys are so cool. Come on, do the yeet with me. It's so simple. Even a caveman can do it. And he's just running everybody down. Basically, I love the line, too, he made about how the way he wrestles in the ring and how dumb the audience is like trying to read Shakespeare to a dog. Like, I don't know, that was just a fun comparison, because because that's the thing. Gunther is really good on the mic, especially when it's like this kind of cocky Gunther, the one that like knows he is better than everybody, and it kind of sucks because like I feel like they're also kind of hammering in the whole idea of Jay winning the world title, which on one hand, again, I don't mind Jay winning the world title. I really don't. But like, if you're gonna make it so obvious, then it's either gonna definitely happen, and you're just like, oh, you made it really obvious, or it doesn't happen, and then we're left like, oh, well, okay, so Gunther was proven right. Where do we go from here? So it's like, it's a conflicting feeling I'm having, but like we still have a few weeks to build for the match. Again, we got like 61 days to build for it. This basically ends the way that it always does, with a big old beatdown. But I do like the other wrinkle too of Gunther asking Pat and Michael Cole what they think. He's trying to get some expert opinions from them, and how he did get mad at Pat for wanting to yeet and all that, and wanting to go for the yeet at WrestleMania. Now, keyword to note here too is Gunther wanted a straight answer, where Pat really said, well, I hope Jay wins at WrestleMania. So he really didn't get a straight answer from these quote unquote experts and all that. But yeah, we got almost 2 months of build for this. This is like the next chapter. So like chapter 2 of this build. What do you think of this segment? Because like there was a part of me that was like, okay, there are some great spots in this, but it's also kind of plodding along a little bit.
I personally enjoyed the segment. I didn't really have any issues
Mhm.
with it. I felt like this is something we needed, because you got to look at Gunther. He's trying to understand like who his opponent is and how he operates and everything.
Mhm.
So that's why you had him going into the crowd, who's backstage, of all the people that were attending the event, going down the crowd, interacting with people. And that's honestly like one of the best things you could really do, is just like toy with Jay's emotions, just make him out to look like a
Mhm.
fool and everything. And I feel like that's what WWE is trying to do, because obviously they pay attention to what people say online, and they
Mhm.
sometimes incorporate that sort of thing when it comes to their storylines, which is why it seems like we're getting Jay being a little bit more serious, kind of like how he was at Roman, or kind of like how he was when he was a heel, where he just cut all those promos before it always got into people's faces. I feel like we're
Mhm.
slowly getting that out of Jay, where even like when he was out there to confront Gunther, he wasn't really yeeting with the crowd after Gunther went away. Like, he was just
Yeah.
his own person really at that point, and I kind of like that. And I also like how we had that moment where he was talking to Cole and he was talking to McAfee, saying, "Oh, do you really think that Jake could beat me?" I feel like this is probably a part of the story. Like,
Mhm.
probably, I guess the best way to say it is trying to persuade the audience that, hey, maybe he has a chance to do this and that. Like, actually trying to put Jay on a character arc where we can see his evolution from here all the way up until Mania. And this is good that we have 2 months
Mhm.
of build for this. So there's a lot more story you can put into this, instead of it happening at like the Elimination Chamber. Because at least at Cody won that. I mean, at least at Punk won that. You know, there's a lot of stuff you could tie into last year and certain promo
Yeah.
segments and everything. It's not like it just completely came out of the blue. But it's like with that, there's a lot of things to do here. And I just like how it seems like we're going to be getting like less things that we've seen for like the past couple weeks, because one of my biggest complaints was I was fine when Jay came out on that Monday Night Raw and celebrating.
Mhm.
I didn't think he really needed it much on Friday, that following Friday, and I especially don't think he needed it that past Monday. So I was glad that Sammy
Yeah.
opened up the show, which we'll talk about that next, trust me. But
Mhm.
I just like how it seems like we're gonna really start diving into like more serious territory when it comes
Mhm.
to this overall build between Jay and Gunther, so it actually feels like the match that it's meant to be, which is something that WWE has done before in the past. They threw a match at you like, I don't know how I feel about this, and all of a sudden they give you a good build, they get you really convinced, and then you eventually get behind it. So I feel like this is one of those things there.
Yeah, yeah, and I can see that. It just I just worry because sometimes, I mean, it's happened before, especially on this show when we've talked about these things, week in, week out, how things can sometimes feel samey, and how it's just like, okay, why are we doing this again? And like, because that's the thing, I did like what we did tonight, but there was a part of me that was like, when it was around the time when Gunther got to the ring and he was standing there in the corner, I was like, all right, let's get to the next part because I know Jay's coming out here. And around that time, like, was when he started going to the announce table and all that. So I was just thinking, okay, good, we're moving along. This is good. This is fine. It's just I do usually have that worry with WWE where it's just like, okay, let's run that again. Let's run that back again. It's just like, well, do you need to run it back, or can we try to throw another thing in here? But well, again, we'll have to see how this all plays out, and we will talk about the build for WrestleMania when it gets closer to the event. That would either be like the week of or the week after, just because I think there's going to be a discussion that will need to be had about this build, especially, I mean, again, you think a year ago with the build to WrestleMania 40 and how kind of immaculate that was, not only just with like the main title picture, but just like everything that was surrounding WrestleMania 2 with like Gunther and his IC title reign, and the stuff with like the tag team titles and all that, the women's titles and all that. So no. But yeah. So, world title picture, it will be what it will be. The bill will be fine. We'll just have to see how everything goes from that. Chat, let us know what you think of the build so far to WrestleMania and all that. But we're going to continue on with our mid card stories. And as Drop mentioned, the start of the night was with Sami Zayn. He was responding to Kevin Owens' challenge for Elimination Chamber, saying, "Hey, I want to fight you in Toronto." And Sami comes out. He doesn't run down their full history, but he does make reference like, "Hey, KO, we've been in this song and dance before, back and forth," and Sami just wants that match. He wants that fight. Adam Pearce comes out. He's like, I can't give it to you legally, but I can give it to you unsanctioned. So we're going to get an unsanctioned match between Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. I really like this segment because, again, Sami Zayn knows how to work a crowd and knows how to get people behind him and all that. Even if it's just like a simple basic structure of, hey, I want this match. The opposing side of, the authority figure being like, no, I can't give you that match. Give me the match. Because even if you say Kevin Owens is going to beat me up, guess what? I can just do the same thing and you can't stop me. And I like, too, how Adam Pearce, because like his whole thing is, especially his catchphrase, like, oh, I'm going to make it official. I'm going to make it official. But tonight, he's like, it's unofficial. It'll be an unsanctioned match, and I don't know. It's just a play on words like that, especially with somebody with that kind of catchphrase, was really cool to me. But yeah, we're gonna be playing into a lot of history between the two now. Part of me, because like we all thought this was gonna happen at Mania, and I don't know if you saw this report or not.
I didn't.
We might be pivoting to having Randy versus Kevin at WrestleMania. So, what are your thoughts on that? And like, I guess the idea of us now having Sami versus Kevin at Elimination Chamber.
I always thought it was gonna be KO and Randy, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like they're prolonging him for a reason. Because I mean, there really wasn't any point of having Randy on television with the whole Cody and KO program. So now that's
Mm-hmm.
over. Now that, because even in that build, KO alluded to Sammy. So now with that out of the way and unsanctioned, I mean, that just puts everything in the perfect place. If you think about
Mm-hmm.
what KO has done to Randy, knowing how whatever happens in that match, WWE's not accountable for it. I mean, you're definitely getting the
Yeah.
punt kick. You're definitely getting the Punk kick.
Oh yeah.
But it's like,
yeah.
but it's like I mean, to be honest, it honestly makes a lot more sense to have this at Toronto because this is their homeland. It's not like it's a throwaway match where it's just like one-on-one. It's going to be them in an unsanctioned match where they could do whatever the fuck they want. So you're probably gonna get shit you normally wouldn't see on WWE television. And I remember when Johnny Gargano and Grayson Waller recently had one, I believe 2 years ago, and Johnny was doing a lot of NXT Johnny shit that we haven't seen on the main roster during that program. I definitely remember watching that. So it's like I'm definitely excited for this. It makes the most sense. This should the men's chambers of the main event. This should definitely close off the show. And I believe even I forgot his name. I know he's a part of TKO, but I believe he mentioned that, you know, there's supposed to be a couple surprises thrown in here. It wouldn't be surprised if Randy's one of those surprises, because like Randy's also over the advertisements. You see him on like those little things they have in Vegas. You see him on the trucks.
Oh yeah.
He's it's not like he's out where he like tore something or whatever. Like you can't throw him off the card really. So I mean, I definitely expect him to possibly come back during that. I mean, I kind of want him to, just to see the Punk kick. Be kind of weird if he doesn't do it after the pile driver. But I like this build. It makes the perfect sense, and it's actually something we haven't seen between Sami and KO, which is actually something I appreciate, like a little change there, something new. So it should be exciting. Might probably even has the potential to be match of the year, really, to throw in that category.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Like those two are gonna absolutely try to kill each other. You know. And yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. And I kind of agree. We might be getting Randy coming back. We might be getting that Punk kick, and Kevin's head is gonna go all the way across the stadium, all the way back into America, and Randy's gonna end up getting a field goal in New Orleans or something in the Silverdome, brother, or excuse me, Superdome, brother.
Because if they're bringing the pile driver back out of all moves, I don't see why you can't bring the Punk kick back for at least that one night.
Yeah, especially for this one night, for this one match. Just do it, you know, or hell, do it again at WrestleMania too. That would make for a big moment as well. But yeah, I kind of agree too. I'm kind of glad that this match is happening here. I think this is a better setting for them, because for Sami and Kevin Owens, this is kind of their WrestleMania since they're in Toronto and all that.
Yeah.
And now the other thing too, because a lot of people are throwing this possibility for Mania, because it's like, okay, well, if we're getting KO and Sami at Elimination Chamber, and we might be getting KO versus Randy at WrestleMania, where does that leave Sami? And it seems like a lot of people are leaning towards Sami versus Karrion Kross at WrestleMania. So what are your thoughts on that?
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I mean, it could happen, but at the same time, it could also be something I could potentially see playing on Monday Night Raw. But also, there's a part of me thinking that this could also just be part of what we normally see Kross do, is just get inside people's head, and then they make that decision right there. So it's like that's also another possibility too. Like, could it be a match? Sure, but most of the time it's Karrion Kross when it comes to like people that he was targeting and everything. There's some people that he didn't necessarily target, and they still had that change. Like, I don't recall, at least from the top of my head, I don't recall him having any sort of issue with like the New Day before they turned heel. Like, I don't. At least I don't actually. I don't. Did they have a match?
He was. They might have had one match, or like maybe it was New Day versus AOP.
Okay.
Or no, I think he might have had a singles match with Xavier, because he was really targeting Xavier.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So, at least with some of his matches, I recall, because I know he targeted Styles. I don't really remember. Actually, he did.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I guess it's on and off. He has matches with people, he doesn't. So it's like, it could just be one of those things where he just, whatever he's pushing right there could possibly happen at the chamber, where Sami does something that was unexpected, and then we get that sort of shift with Sami to really continuing the
Hmm.
whole trend with Cross, but I don't know. Especially if it is
Yeah.
like especially if it is the WrestleMania match. I mean, you definitely have like quite some time to really like build to that, really. So
Hmm.
it's also a part of me that's curious because I feel like Cross, honestly, if I'm gonna be completely honest with you, he's been a lot more interesting like before. I mean,
Oh yeah,
a lot more
since
interesting since
AOP,
AOP left.
yeah, since AOP left, yeah, he's been kind of more interesting because he's been able to kind of showcase his own talent, especially with
Yeah,
his promo work and even some of his social media stuff too has been pretty good.
yeah.
But I mean,
Well, I don't know.
my thoughts, I guess, is if Cross and Sammy do have a match at WrestleMania, part of me would want Cross to go over just because I feel like he
Same.
would be able to use the momentum a lot more. And, well, he kind of needs more forward momentum in his career, if we're being honest. And, I mean, Sammy could eat a loss like that, I think.
Yeah.
Uh, especially if it's going to help Karrion Cross in the long run, which, again, the guy's been getting good, especially with his promo work and all that. Like, let's have that transition into a match and all that, and who better to make you look really good in a match than Sami Zayn?
Yeah, so if it happens, and I would probably have to
Yeah.
say Cross should go over because if you want to continue that, hopefully I would continue that trend of creating new stars. I mean, hey, it's
Hmm.
definitely one way to do it.
Exactly. But speaking of new stars and creating some of them, Dirty Ass Dom had to take care of a new Raw superstar who hadn't been on Raw for what commentary said was 2 years or something. Like,
Yeah.
this is his first match back on Raw in 2 years. AJ Styles took on Dirty Ass Dom. And, I mean, pretty standard affair when it comes to a Monday Night Raw match and all that here, with Carlito pulling out some cheats on all that here and there, but AJ's kind of able to get around this, and he's able to beat Dom fairly easily with a Styles Clash, mind you. Like, he doesn't normally end matches anymore with a Styles Clash. It's normally with the Phenomenal Forearm. So I was kind of happy he ended up with the Styles Clash. Uh, but the main talking point is the stuff after the match where Braun Breaker comes out. He goes to spear AJ Styles, but he ends up hitting Dominic Mysterio, gets tossed out, gets all mad, throws his shirt, and AJ proves once again while he is phenomenal and all that. So looks like we're building towards AJ Styles versus Braun Breaker. We're building more towards that match, and I'm hoping they're able to kind of push this towards WrestleMania because this would be a really good test for Braun Breaker, especially on a stage like WrestleMania to face off and possibly beat AJ Styles on there.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's the match we get, really, because
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, we haven't really seen Sheamus lately, and you would think that he would be at least
Yep.
featured in some sort of like match or some backstage segment if they were really going to do the moment there. I mean, hey, if it was up to me, that's what I would do at Mania because definitely Sheamus winning the belt there is the moment. But I mean, putting
Hmm.
AJ Styles up against somebody like Braun Breaker, I'm not going to complain. I don't. I don't really want to see this on like a random Raw. I mean, if it happens, I'm not going to complain. But at the same time, if you put AJ Styles versus Braun Breaker on a WrestleMania card over that weekend, if it's a Saturday or Sunday,
Hmm.
that's definitely a big profile match for Braun Breaker. And I would
Hmm.
definitely love to see like a one-on-one match because I'm like a part of the issue I have really when it comes to this WrestleMania build. I don't like a lot of these triple threat rumors. It's starting to get under my skin
Oh
because I
yeah.
feel like you got to be a little bit more creative with that. That's why I'm
Hmm.
not really buying like a lot of these rumors going around because we tried looking into them before. Look what happened over that Royal Rumble weekend.
Yeah.
So it's like AJ
Yeah.
Styles, Braun Breaker. I mean, I'm completely okay with it. I like how they did that. It wasn't that typical
Hmm.
babyface thing where Braun Breaker speared AJ Styles. He was laying out on the floor. Like you had Dom still in the ring with him, and then you get Braun Breaker there try to set up a spear. He spears Dominic. rolls out of the ring, throws a shirt to AJ. AJ Styles catches it. So I like how, at least in this regime, the baby faces aren't as stupid as they were
Yeah.
prior. I do like how they set up everything here. And I'm really excited to see how this is going to turn out, honestly. I mean, I would save it for Mania, personally. Give it that nice build. Because I like these, like, little long builds. So at least so there's, like, more flavor into it. Because otherwise, I don't really know what AJ does. I know we talked about potentially him and Logan, but you would think
how do you set that up at this point?
Yeah, you would think realistically if they were to do that, they would like set up something in the Elimination Chamber. And Logan hasn't even said shit about AJ.
Yeah.
And they haven't alluded into like panning into AJ or panning into Logan by showing an image of whoever beforehand. So it's kind of like I don't really think that's in the cards.
Yeah, I think we've moved on from that. So, which I mean, it's fine. You know, I mean, they would have a good match, but
they would.
I don't want that in my WrestleMania. I'm sorry, people.
Yeah.
AJ versus Braun is so much more tantalizing, and AJ will make Braun look even better than he already does.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, we're still in the infancy stages of that feud, so hopefully the build leading up to that towards WrestleMania is a good one. But from one IC title to another IC title, we had a number one contenders match for the women's IC title here. We had Dakota Kai taking on Ivy Nile, and I mean, the match was okay. Everybody's just kind of cold. Not a lot of fan reactions from. Oh yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, no, just the fans in attendance, they were not 100% behind this match. I mean, they kind of started firing up near the end, but really not by much. The whole story of this match is, of course, Dakota's bum knee and all that. That's she's had surgically repaired and everything. So Ivy's targeting that the whole time. A couple kind of rough spots too, with like Ivy dumping Dakota outside of the ring, and that stomp that Dakota gave to Ivy Nile near the end of the match, like she might have been knocked out for like at least a second or two, because like you saw like the ref
almost looked like it was a shoot.
It kind of did a little bit, because like you had the ref like checking her wrist even as Dakota was bringing her up and all that. Like that looked kind of rough. But I know a lot of the complaints right now with the women's mid-card title scene, and this is both for the IC title and the US title, we're not having different contenders. We keep kind of going back to the finals of both tournaments. So like Mission over on SmackDown's continuously been after Chelsea Green for her US title, and here on Raw we're getting a rematch now of Dakota Kai and Lyra Valkyria, which, you know, I saw again a few complaints being like, oh, well, didn't we just get this? Isn't this just another rematch? Why do we keep getting rematches? Blah 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 blah. But it's like I see that. I understand that mindset of it. I don't mind them running back Dakota Kai and Lyra Valkyria, because they do have good chemistry in the ring. So I'm like, okay, you know what? You want to give us another banger? Give us another banger. But I will say, after this one, and hopefully on SmackDown, after Michin's just hopefully done with Chelsea Green, let's kind of start building some of these other women up, because I'm gonna just keep mentioning her name again. Shayna Baszler's right there. You know, Zoe Stark's pretty good. Why aren't we using them? They haven't been on TV in weeks. Like, ever since the Royal Rumble. And even then, barely were showing even around then. So, but yeah, what do you think of this match, and like the outcome of this match and our now rematch for the women's IC title?
So I'm gonna come out and say this. I don't like how we're doing some of these entrances. keep in mind,
Mm,
this could just be the American audience because obviously people at home, if they're international or they have a certain VPN to have access somewhere, they can see it.
yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like you should at least highlight the people you really want to see with the entrances. Kind of like, I mean, why did I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, and please,
Mm,
people, do not take this the wrong way, but how come you weren't able to see like Roxanne's entrance?
yeah.
Just gonna come out and say that because this is somebody that's new. This is somebody that's going to be the future of your division. I mean, yes, you still saw it, and I saw the little
Mhm.
pusher that with Lillian calling her Roseanne. But it's like, that's
That was
something I
funny.
kind of wish they did when they went back from the commercial for like the US. And keep in mind, like I said, it's not really a big deal because they don't have commercial for some people. But I don't know, that's a little thing that it's just a little nitpick really. I'm not really bothered by it entirely.
Mhm.
But yeah, within this match itself, I think the thing I was more surprised with is the fact that Dakota went over. Only because it
Yeah.
seems like they were trying to build some sort of story between Ivy Nile and Lyra Valkyria, because you had that whole thing where they had segments in the back. You had that whole thing during the Royal Rumble where Ivy eliminated Lyra. So you would think
Mhm.
by default, okay, this is going to be the feud. After Lyra had all that business taken care of with Bayley, he was going to focus on that entirely. But now that we have this number one contenders match, we're going to see who gets Lyra, and then it ends up being Dakota. And I'm like, okay.
Mhm.
So I don't have any issues with this because I feel like maybe this gives a little more showing with Dakota. But at the same time, there's also a part of me that feels like they're going to run some sort of angle next week where Ivy's going to come out, cost something. There's going to be a TQ or whatever. And I'm not a big
Mhm.
fan of these DQ finishes all the time. And I hate to lay out the map like that, but that's kind of how I see that match going next week. If it goes the way it
Yeah.
does and Lyra comes out on top, because I don't expect her to lose the title, um, I'd be okay with that. Probably a lot more than a DQ
Mhm.
because I just don't get the point of them all the time. It just seems cheap. It works sometimes when there's like a proper
Yeah.
story that needs it. Like hypothetically,
Yeah.
let's say Roman Reigns. I'm not saying I would book it like this, but let's say hypothetically, Roman sees Seth wanting to qualify to get into
Mhm.
that chamber to get at Cody. Fucking dude just stomped my face in the ground. I'm gonna cost him this match. Okay, that makes sense. But it's like some random shenanigans being played out. I don't know how I feel about that. But I think the real issue
Mhm.
here is when it comes to Lyra and Chelsea as well, is like, what are we doing with these titles heading into Mania? Because I know we predicted the whole
Yeah.
Becky Lynch situation. Where's Becky?
Yeah. Where's Becky at?
Becky's nowhere to be
Where's
found unless she
Mhm.
shows up like after the Elimination Chamber where there's a good possibility there. But it's like we don't really know any clear direction, nothing teased for like anything happening at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And I don't want this to be
Yeah,
one
it's
of those
really weird.
yeah, I don't want it to be fatal 4 ways or fatal 5 ways. I don't want it to be fucking ladder
Oh my
matches and
god,
shit with
Fatal
these
Five.
titles. Yeah, like I
Oh.
no like multiple that's another thing. Like I said earlier, I'm gonna keep bringing it up. I'm tired of these
Mhm.
fucking multi-person matches. I don't care if it's like number one contenders match, but it's like, oh, we gotta do a triple threat, triple threat, triple threat. We don't need to do it all the time.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They really need to figure out like the pathway with Mania with these titles. I'm just gonna say that.
Mhm. Oh yeah, no, they really do because yeah, we're just left thinking, okay, where are we going with a lot of these things? Like, again, we keep getting rematch after rematch with like Mission and Chelsea, and again now
Oh,
Dakota and Lyra.
no,
It's just like, okay, that's great, but like these titles are supposed to be meant to elevate
yeah.
the whole division. Why can't we get more different competitors
Like
going
you
on?
said, Shayna,
I mean,
Zoe.
yeah. And I mean, you can kind of tie the, I think part of it is also a Raw issue because,
Yeah.
like, when you look at it, like Gunther's not going to have a contender until Mania, Like,
Yeah.
he's not going to be he's probably not going to have a match until Mania. And you're really going to have your World Heavyweight Champion go 2.5 months without a match, without a title defense?
Yeah.
You know, we're finally starting to build up the tag team division, but even that is kind of like rocky to a point. Because, and I'm glad they brought that up too this week, where like you have the Creeds both they're both just joking around in the back and being like, "Oh yeah, did you see we both held the titles up?" But then Ivy's like, "Yeah, but you guys lost. You guys didn't get the title, so why are you guys happy about all this? Like, Chad's gonna come back from his training for luchadors, and he asked us to win gold, and we're not gonna have anything for it, you know? Because hell, Ivy just lost tonight, so she's not gonna have any gold unless, again, they go down the route that you were talking about. But yeah, like maybe that's the story of like, oh, well, what's Chad gonna do when he comes back and they don't have gold? Like, are they all just gonna butt heads? Are they all gonna beat up Chad Gable because he's a dick?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on with everything?
I'll book a match with Gable and Malachi Black at Mania for you.
You know what? I'll take that. I will take that every single day. Like, you want to talk about fight forever? There's a match where they could fight forever. Oh man, yeah. We just want better for our women and for our lovely women's mid card division. But moving on to more matches in our mid card division. Penta took on good old Pete Dunne again, and again, kind of along the lines of like Seth and Finn, where like these guys have really good chemistry together because.
Over his health.
Yeah, this was just another banger match between the two. It's so good, in fact, that Ludwig Kaiser even had to come out and get a good look at it and, you know, maybe take some notes inside of his little head of his. And unfortunately, he does kind of get involved, and it kind of throws Pete Dunne off his game, and it's able to give Penta the win. But, you know, we're going to have a beatdown after the match. Pete Dunne beats down Kaiser too, and Penta takes down both of them. So I'm assuming this is gonna it's just the thing that you were just complaining about. We might be getting another triple threat with those three. But it's like, okay,
I'll let it slide.
Yeah, because this one would slap. This one would like legitimately slap. But it's actually kind of cool because when you think about it, you have Pete Dunne, who was kind of in a way, without better words for this, kind of the protege of Sheamus.
Yeah.
Then you have Kaiser, the kind of protege of Gunther, taking on each other. And then you have Penta, who, I mean, even Gunther said, hey, I don't want to get shot by Penta. So in a way, you kind of have like a mini, what was it, Mania 39 with Sheamus, Drew, and Gunther. Like, there's a triple threat right there. And I mean, if they had a title on the line, that would be even more tantalizing. But this is probably just going to be one of those things to gain momentum and all that. But yeah, what'd you think about this match?
I mean, I thought the match was really good. I didn't have any issues with it because there's like an ongoing story here with like Penta and Pete Dunne. Pretty much, just it's not like a super complex story. New kid in town, want to push him around and everything, and it's pretty much the person who's getting bullied ends up being the one that ends up stopping the fight because you have Penta pin Pete Dunne within the match. You would think realistically, just looking at WWE 101 booking, that Kaiser would cause a DQ, they'd be beaten on again, but no. Again, like I mentioned with AJ earlier, the babyface is being a lot more smarter with this new regime. He took advantage of the situation when they were spiraling out of control. He took care of both of them, so Kaiser wouldn't interfere into the match, and then he ended up pinning Pete Dunne. There was a part of me in this match that I thought Tyler Bate was going to come out. Only because...
You know, that thought did run by my mind, too. I was just like, oh, what if Tyler Bate came out?
Because he's the only one that really makes any sense, because obviously there's no LWO involvement in this, and I'm not going to even like venture down that because there's literally no connection with Penta and them at all. And also, they have their own ongoing storyline with the New Day right now, so they're not really in any sort of way where they need to team up. But the reason why I mentioned Tyler Bates because there's reports saying he's cleared, he's ready to come back soon, and you would think he would be the one to back up Penta. And yes, him and Pete Dunne were a tag team before, but also those two dudes got a lot of history. And Tyler Bate would be one of those characters that would come back and be like, what the fuck happened when I was gone? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And obviously he's going to side with the new guy being like, hey, you know, he's new here. Why are you doing all this shit and everything? And then you could also run stuff back between the both of them. You could easily do a tag match where it's like Penta and Tyler Bate against Pete Dunne and Kaiser on a Raw. Because there's also a part of me where I feel like if there was like a tag match or a triple threat between these guys, I don't think it's going to be at Mania. I think it's going to be like some sort of Raw match. But there's also like another part of me as well where hypothetically, because again, we could say AJ and Braun, but you never know. Penta and Braun could potentially be an option too. It's really hard to really say what could happen because we could say we want one thing, but then something else comes up, and then it's completely different. Think about it like this: like imagine Braun going for a spear, and then all of a sudden Penta turns that into like a Mexican destroyer. Like that's the kind of shit
that's happening. You know that's coming.
Yeah, that's the kind of shit I can envision. And they obviously have it like planted in their head where they're like that whole segment they had with him where they didn't even talk. They just looked at each other. He looked at the title and then he went away. So there's like a lot of option here, but I like the overall presentation with Penta since his debut. He's been booked very well. He's undefeated. They obviously are trying to really build up this guy to be something special. He's getting crazy reactions when he's out there, so they're obviously doing the right thing, which I do appreciate, because all that's going to do is once Rey Fénix comes over, which there was a report that me and Watkins talked about last week, where there's things in motion of him potentially getting his release. We don't know for sure yet, but you would think by default it would happen. Rey Fénix could easily just rub off all of that momentum with Penta and he'll just get over like that. So I thought this was really I thought this was fun.
Yeah, and this feud too is this is a good feud to have for giving your stars some forward momentum towards a title picture. So like this could lead to Penta eventually, facing Braun Breaker way down the line for the IC title, or hell, if AJ Styles ends up being the one to dethrone Braun Breaker,
imagine that.
AJ versus Penta. Inject that into my veins.
Into a Penta driver.
Yo, that would be crazy. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I'm excited for that because hey, this triple threat, whenever it does happen, it'll slap. It'll slap harder than a Penta slap to Gunther. But really quickly, our one quickfire segment for tonight, it basically involves the New Day. So kind of a good transition that we ended off the last part mentioning the LWO, because they end up coming out and beating down the New Day in a 3-on-2 handicap kind of situation here. I saw a tweet about this though, and I kind of agree with it. Dragon Lee kind of being the leader of the LWO, it feels right because like him on that ramp with, and I always forget their names, with like Del Toro and Joaquin Wilde, like they just looked right out there, like just the three of them. So hell, just kick Ray out. Ray out. He's injured now anyways because of the New Day, but yeah, the New Day shtick with, not being able to really do anything, whether it's on the mic or talking to anybody backstage, because everyone just hates them. I don't know. The shtick hasn't gone old yet, So I'm just happy that it hasn't. They are getting natural heel heat, and you love to see it. And hell, tonight with that 3-on-2 beatdown, you know for a fact they're going to be using that in their coming promos this week.
Oh yeah, hands down, hands down.
Mm,
And I like what you mentioned about the whole Dragon Lee thing, because that's one thing a lot of people have been mentioning. What is Dragon Lee like doing? Like, what is he gonna do that really makes
yeah.
him stand out on the main roster? Obviously, Rey Mysterio is set in stone. He did what he needed to do. People are gonna care about him no matter what he does when he comes out. Penta, they have a plan for him. They're sticking with it. Dragon Lee had a really good run in NXT. A lot of people are really curious to see how that was going to translate on the main roster. This is a good move. Have him be the leader of the LWO, like I said, because that could be taken to new levels, and that could be a potential breakout moment for Dragon Lee to like really stand out on his own, because it's him by himself with mic
Mm,
time that we don't normally see, actually
yeah.
showcasing, what he could do.
Yeah. And it was really cool too. Like his promo, he said it in Spanish, and he's just like, "Look, I know you guys don't understand it, so let me tell you in ways that you do understand. New Day sucks. It's something so easy, but does a lot for a character and the promo itself."
Oh yeah.
Ah. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, that was Raw tonight. I know a bit of a shorter show this week. Understandably so. Some of us are, a bit under the weather and all that. But like, even beyond that, even if that wasn't the case, this was just an all right Raw. I mean, last week we went about what, an hour and a half, just bitching and moaning about that Monday Night Raw, how kind of bad it was. And I mean, this one was fine. It was better. It's just we're moving at a snail's pace on this road to WrestleMania. Like we're not the snail named Turbo either. Like we don't have a supercharged shell to make us go quick and all that. No, we're actually kind of moving at that snail's pace to WrestleMania. So it's like I'm hoping after Elimination Chamber, maybe we get a bit more insight on where we're going, which I'm assuming we would, since, after that event, we'll know who's going to be facing Cody and possibly Rhea/Io at WrestleMania. But again, Raw was fine this week. Not the best show, but not the worst show. It was just, it was fine. But what do you think of the show tonight?
So I thought this episode was Raw. I thought the episode of Raw was pretty decent. It
Hmm.
did what it needed to do when it came to certain threads, like I discussed within the video. I liked how what they're doing with Penta, everything's on track. A little nice breakout moment with Dragon Lee. Hopefully they push that and do something with it. I like the Intercontinental title picture, because even that was something a lot of people outside of Braun, because obviously Braun's just playing the character in the show, but a lot of people are really
Hmm.
curious to see what's the direction of Braun. Feels like we're in a really good direction with that. Very strong opening with Sami and KO, so I'm very interested to see how that develops once we get over to SmackDown on Friday. Probably get another promo from Kevin Owens, so I'm very
Oh yeah.
curious to see how that's gonna go. And yeah, we got the Elimination Chamber all set up, and we'll just have to see how the last week. I mean, well, this Friday and then that Monday and Friday really bleeds into it and see what
Hmm.
happens.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll just have to kind of see what happens as we continue down our trek on the road to WrestleMania. But hey, that was the show, everybody. Quick plugs, of course, as always. If you guys want to talk to us on any social media, you can find all of our handles down below, right in the yellow section there. You got Anime We Studio, you got Legendary Vash, who again he's not here tonight. He had to take care of a Snorlax blocking his path. You got Drop This Box, you got Walk-ins MW, and of course you've got the hashtag Weebs of the Ring. That's a great way to kind of chat with us too, and for us to kind of check on the feedbacks. Because hey, we love to improve, and there's only one way for us to improve, and that's with you guys saying, hey, why not try this? Why not try that? Maybe, do this or maybe do that. Hey, we would love to hear from you guys because we want to keep building up what we've started here because things are getting good and we're on that proverbial road to WrestleMania and we're going to be speeding on through. So With that being said, I'm going to take some time to thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to the Weebs of the Ring podcast. If you enjoyed what we had to say, again, all the handles down below, the hashtag right down there. Before, during, and after all of our shows, we'll be checking it and, of course, give us the feedback as well. Weebs of the Ring is presented by Anima We Studio. Thanks, of course, to our production team for all of their hard work that they put in. And, of course, thank you for tuning in, as always, whether you're at work, driving to work, or just on the treadmill running a few miles. So thank you once again. And as always, remember, no stunt grannies were harmed in the recording of this podcast. Have a good one, everybody.
We'll see you guys on Thursday for Grappling of the Week. And also, I forgot to mention, shout out to EO for that great vignette that she had. Peace out.
Yes. It was good.